The last time we put out a video looking at ITA Airways, it was August 2022, and the Italian carrier had just 56 aircraft and was a member of the SkyTeam Alliance. Oh, how things have changed. The airline now has over 100 aircraft in its fleet and has since left SkyTeam and is slowly integrating into Star Alliance. So for today's video, we take a look at ITA Airways' fleet as it stands in late 2025, looking at what has changed for the carrier over the past few years. At a glance, the ITA Airways fleet is made up of the following aircraft types and quantities according to planespotters.net as of early October 2025. For narrow bodies, there are 12 A220-100s, 14 A220-300s, 10 A319-100s, 17 A320-200s, 19 A320neos, and 7 A321neos. For wide bodies, there are 5 A330-200s, 11 A330-900s, and finally 6 A350-900s. So, what has changed with this all-Airbus fleet since August 2022? Well, the carrier has gained the following aircraft over the last few years: all 12 of its A220-100s, 10 more A220-300s, 17 A320neos, and all of its A321neos and A330-900s. The airline's A350 fleet remains the same, while 4 A319-100s, 12 A320-200s, and 3 A330-200s have exited the fleet. All in all, the airline has nearly doubled in size in taking delivery of the latest generations of Airbus aircraft. One quirky thing about the ITA fleet is that an A330-200 has been or had been operating for weeks while missing the winglet of its right wing. We're actually not sure if this is still the case, as we don't have any sources to check with, but we had reported on this fun fact in mid-August. Obviously not on the A330's MEL or minimum equipment list, the aircraft is capable of flying safely without these devices. The Airbus A330 in question is registered as Echo India Echo Juliet Papa, a 13-year-old aircraft delivered to Alitalia in October 2012 before passing over to successor ITA in October 2021. As we mentioned at the time, the likelihood was that the winglet in question was damaged at some point earlier this year, and ITA chose to keep the plane in service while waiting for a replacement part. This has meant that the A330 was flying with a slight efficiency penalty, potentially adding hundreds or perhaps even thousands of dollars of additional fuel burn cost per long-haul flight due to the slight increase in drag. Of course, the downside of putting an aircraft out of action until a new winglet can be installed has been the greater concern for the airline. Grounding an otherwise functioning jet would have forced the airline to cancel flights and throw away valuable revenue, as well as disappoint its customers. And while it's technically not fleet news, we have to mention the big ownership change at ITA Airways that took place in early 2025. Yes, Italy's flag carrier ITA Airways finally joined the Lufthansa group after roughly 2 years of planning and regulatory hurdles. Lufthansa officially acquired its desired 41% stake in the airline, with plans to take full ownership in the future. In the short term, however, Lufthansa's focus is twofold: restore its core German business to its initial prime, and grow ITA Airways into a profitable, financially sustainable and competitive global carrier. As part of Lufthansa's deal for ITA Airways, the airline agreed to invest €325 million into the new Italian flag carrier. It was quite the saga for Lufthansa to acquire its share of the Italian airline and followed several years of discussions and negotiations. In May 2023, the two companies agreed to the German airline's acquisition of a minority stake. The deal then had to be approved by the European Commission, which only gave the green light in November 2024 after an in-depth investigation into the competition-related implications of such a deal. Trying to ensure that the deal would still mean a competitive marketplace, the European Commission was fairly meticulous with its demands. And despite reports of Lufthansa's dissatisfaction and frustration, an agreement on possible concessions was reached, allowing the deal to go through. There are several benefits of an ITA acquisition by Lufthansa. First and foremost, as the German carrier notes in its release, Rome Fiumicino Airport will constitute the group's southernmost hub, contributing to a more varied and dynamic network. ITA Airways' unique position, a fair bit further away from the other Lufthansa Group hubs, such as Brussels, Vienna, Frankfurt or Zurich for instance, will also mean different markets. ITA Airways currently benefits from a reasonably significant network to South America, North America and Africa. The airline's strategy is expected to shift in line with Lufthansa's needs, with an emphasis on South America and Africa where the group is not as present. Lufthansa also believes that Milan Linate Airport will play a part in ITA's operation. It notes its economic importance, underlying that the facility has the, quote, second largest catchment area in the EU. While no details were shared, Lufthansa says that Linate would play a quote-unquote prominent role in the group. It is worth noting that Linate is anything but an intercontinental hub, meaning any additional growth from Lufthansa Group airlines at that airport would be limited to short and medium-haul flights. And then, of course, with the Lufthansa Group stake, the carrier has left the SkyTeam alliance and is in the process of joining Star Alliance, the same group that all of Lufthansa Group's other network carriers belong to. ITA left SkyTeam on April 30th, receiving executives' approval to join Star Alliance. The carrier's membership in SkyTeam was somewhat of a carryover from its previous identity as Alitalia. In a statement on April 2, 2025, Lufthansa Group detailed that the Star Alliance Chief Executive Board approved the process to start ITA Airways' integration into the alliance. The onboarding process will now move at full throttle, Lufthansa Group said earlier in 2025, adding that ITA Airways should be fully integrated into Star Alliance in early 2026. The group is helping the Italian carrier through the process, it stated. Dieter Franks, the chief commercial officer of Lufthansa Group, expressed pride that ITA Airways would become the German group's fifth network airline to join the alliance, and as the mentor of the Italian carrier, Lufthansa Group would attempt its best to ensure a smooth process. But what do you think about the fleet of ITA Airways and the fact that it is partially owned by Lufthansa Group? Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.